What's up, y'all? Shuffle. Welcome to the last hero guide out of the initial set. Very cool to be here at this point, and this one is for Man-at-Arms, who I am very surprised had to be saved until the end. He got one of the least amounts of votes, and I consider this to be one of the most important characters in the current roster, so I was very surprised, as I said. But I conceded to y'all's wishes, and so now we're going to talk about Man-at-Arms in this video. As always, we're going to talk about his strengths, weaknesses, how to play him, what his skills and paths do, some good trinkets for him, and teammates to get you started. First, what is Man-at-Arms good at? His kit is incredibly versatile. You probably heard me say it before in different videos, but this character has an answer to pretty much any situation that pops up in the game. He doesn't have to do a ton of damage, but he has one or two moves that can pretty much dismantle any difficult encounter that you might have. You just have to build him correctly, and that's what we're going to talk about later. His next major strength is that he is a good support unit. He can help protect his allies, and he can heal some good stress with Bolster once it's upgraded. His final strength is that he's surprisingly mobile. One does not expect the old man in a solid chunk of metal as his armor to be a mobile character, but here we are. He's able to move forward one space with Rampart, he can run all the way back to the front with Hold the Line, and he can even move back with Strategic Withdrawal. Weaknesses, you'll be hard pressed to find some, honestly. This is the best I could come up with, but the weaknesses that Man-at-Arms has is that he only can have 5 moves equipped at one time. So even though he's really good at dismantling and disarming all of the difficult things in the game, he usually has to leave 1 or 2 of his other good skills behind. Second major weakness is that he has no damage over time effects. Most characters do. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, every character has access to damage over time except for Man-at-Arms and Leper. And while it's not the end-all be-all not having damage over time, it is something that is helpful to have because it helps you check enemy death blow resist when it's not your turn. His final major weakness is that for all of his strengths, his support ability, his tanking ability, he is not immortal. He will get hit a lot, he will take a lot of stress, and it is up to you to keep him healthy. It doesn't matter if he has a full stack of block tokens and max HP, if he melts down, he is in the danger zone. Next section is on how to play Man-at-Arms. The first thing that I would suggest doing is picking your support and matchup skills. So how do you want Man-at-Arms to help the team? Usually this is Bolster, but there are other things you can put on like Bellow, Stand Fast, and these moves we'll talk about in a second. But it's very important to pick what he really needs for the upcoming situation. The second thing to do with Man-at-Arms is to make sure that he is either guarding or taunting people if necessary. Defender's an incredible move, Retribution's an incredible move, and if people are in danger and you want to make sure you can redirect the enemy attacks to Man-at-Arms, you should be hitting those first. Damage comes after. The third tip for Man-at-Arms is to define what he is doing in your party. He can put out some pretty good damage if you give him the right path, and if you give him the damage moves. He can be this massive wall that's pretty much unkillable, mostly, if you give him all of his block skills. And then he's got his Swiss Army knife kit of other abilities to, again, help you get through tough fights. One thing to say is that it does help to understand the game a bit more. He is a very matchup heavy character, and he rewards your understanding of the game. Sometimes, even though you have taunt and guard, you don't have to press them. And there are certain moves like Bellow which are okay normally, but there are some fights in the game that it's almost, I'm not going to say necessary, but it is incredibly helpful if you have it. So make sure you're really paying attention to where you're at, try and understand what enemies are coming up, and then kit your Man-at-Arms accordingly. Now let's talk about Man-at-Arms skills, and we'll go through them, the upgrades, and how to use them, etc. First one is Crush. This is the most notable skill in terms of DD2 memes, I think, for Man-at-Arms, because this move, we always jokingly refer to the Crush nerf because like 1 month into the game, this got nerfed, and it did like 1 less damage, and instead of combo on block, block on combo, it gave the health now. Like, it used to be block on combo. It was so weird. It was such a left field nerf, but that's some history you probably didn't care about. But otherwise, Crush, standard melee attack, has really good reach and heals him for a solid amount. Even if you have Sergeant, which lowers this damage, it's still good to have. You know, it's rank 3. You know, if you can reach into rank 3, that's a pretty good attack. Next is Rampart. This one's pretty cool because it has the movement ability, which is nice, but also you can use it to disrupt the enemy. So sometimes pushing an enemy out of rank 2, you know, the middle one, into 3 can be disruptive, which is nice. And then also it can stun when it's upgraded if there's combo, and it can daze. So it does a lot of stuff, even though it doesn't hit super hard. And it's not a bad move. It's just the other stuff is oftentimes better, but definitely still a good move. Come to Defender, which doesn't seem like much, but this is honestly one of the best moves this character has. And that's because it has no cooldown. And so you have the ability to give someone 3 guard tokens, so they're guarded for 3 turns. And then you give yourself block plus when it's upgraded, so that's a lot of mitigation. And there's gonna be a time where you're thinking, do I use guard or do I use taunt? And the answer is you use taunt when you don't want anyone in the party getting hit by what's coming, so you can just make sure you redirect it towards yourself if the enemy can reach you. You use guard if you want someone specific to not get hit. Sometimes you have a tanky team and then you have like a warlock occultist that might get shot, and so you want to hit defender on that, you know, while the rest of the team can take a hit just fine. So that's pretty much the only difference between them, in case you were wondering. And like I was saying though, Defender, super good move. One of the best he has. I forgot about Bolster. Bolster is the other super good move he has. And when it's not upgraded, not super good. -1 stress doesn't really do much when you go from 5 to 4 because all the bad stuff happens at 4. But when this is upgraded, this takes 2 stress off of him and the other person and puts you to 3, which is a much safer number to be at, even though it's only 1 different. And it's only got a 1-turn cooldown, removes vulnerable and weaken on the target. So it's strong. This is on at all times. Like Defender and Bolster are on at all times. This is not negotiable. Hold the Line is really good to get them up front. This is similar to Rampart in a few ways because it's a movement skill, it does the same damage, but you know, it's got some other different secondary stuff. Has better crit rate. I didn't notice that. But this is really good because some fights, some enemies, some random stuff happens. Man-Arms lands in rank 4. Leper as a frontliner, screwed if he's in rank 4. Hellion as a frontliner has some trouble getting back up, but she can do it in like 2 turns from rank 4. Man-at-Arms can do it in 1 with 1 button. And then he'll anchor himself up there so he doesn't get knocked back after. And for some reason, if they have a combo and this is upgraded, you can stun them. It's not something you actually need at all times, but if you're running, you know, Stygian, where you get the shuffle modifier a lot, or if you fight a boss that likes to move you, then this is good, but you don't really need it all the time. But it is a good move when you do need it. Then there's Bellow, which the speed penalty is nice. It helps your team go first afterwards. But the best things about Bellow, not only the positioning, you can use it from everywhere. It can also get rid of enemy dodge if it misses or hits. You know, you still get rid of dodge, but it gets rid of riposte and crit when it's upgraded. These are 2 of the hardest tokens to get off an enemy, and he can just rip all of them off at 1 shot. So, you know, sometimes you have like Highway Robbery with Highwayman that gets 2 or 3 different tokens and it's randomized, so you might hit all their block or one of their strength. This specifically gets riposte and crit, which makes it very good. You don't have this on at all times, but there are a couple fights in the game where if you have this, the fight gets so much easier. We have Retribution. This move is very overloaded statistically. You get 2 taunt, 2 riposte. Doesn't seem like much, but there's a lot of token interaction when you have those 2 riposte tokens and the taunt. So if he randomly gets weakened or has blind or the enemy has dodge or whatever, he's able to, you know, clear himself of bad tokens and then also try and remove the other tokens off the enemy. So this move actually does a lot, even though it's just you swinging twice. You're attacking on turns that are not your turn, and that's never a bad thing to have in a turn-based game. Upgraded, gets 2 block, makes it even better. especially for indiscriminate science. Command, only difference when it's upgraded is it removes the cooldown, which not the best upgrade. Honestly, this move's okay, but not amazing. But you know, being able to remove blind is pretty common, and sometimes, you know, you get like 2 of them and that's a pain in the butt. So this way you can just take them all off, especially if you don't have a turn where, you know, he needs to do something important. It's not bad. It's really good with leper if you want to run that without a combo generator. Then there's stand fast. This move is good. The only issue with stand fast is that, like, it doesn't, you know, you could just spam defender if you really wanted to, but stand fast is still really good because you can spam defender with stand fast, and so you get block every turn after you use it. But the really good upgrade on this is that, you know, once it's mastered, is that it removes the combo token. This is very good for stuff like exemplar, and there's a couple other things where combo is dangerous, but specifically that. We come to courageous abandon, which this move is such a meme, dude. So the targeting is horrible on this on this move. The targeting's horrible. It's 1-to-1, so you have to be up front, and the enemy has to be up front. This doesn't always coincide, you know. And the damage is kind of mediocre, but it scales with block tokens. So it doesn't matter how many of the block tokens you have, you just need to have like 1 of each. So you can give this thing 200% bonus damage. So it's gonna hit for, I think, it should be what, 15 to 21 when it's upgraded. And then, you know, 20% crit, that's not a bad hit, but it takes all of your block off and then it hits you with vulnerable. So you're not in a great spot afterwards. Plus, there's so many things that can happen in between, you know, now and then when you're gonna hit the enemy. You're trying to generate your block, which most of your block is gonna come from moves that taunt or guard people. So you have to generate enough block, not get hit generating that block, so it's, you know, it's gonna be there when you swing. And then the enemy has to make sure that they're not getting dodge, or you're not blinded, or you're not weakened, and they're in rank 1. That is a lot of stuff for a move that, you know, all this setup when you can just slam Howling in. I don't like to compare things 1-to-1 like that, but in terms of setup moves, you know, like Burning Stars, Finale, Howling in, you know, Ruin into Chop, stuff like that. This is probably the worst outside of like Malediction. But yeah, so there's my rant on Courageous Abandon. Just honestly not worth it. You should still try it at some point just for fun, but it's not easy to pull off. Then we have Strategic Withdrawal. This move is insane. It's weird because this move doesn't exist until you give it mastery. The base version is whatever. Like, you give them combo, which is nice. It's like a 3 to 6 damage hit. That's not the strongest, but for some reason it gets all of this extra text when it's upgraded. So you get the block plus, the speed. If you're on Death's Door, you heal for a third of your life, and then you combo the target. And this is so insane because, you know, let's say you get knocked to Death's Door, you're on your turn, and, you know, you didn't die, good for you. And then you hit Strategic Withdrawal, you heal for a third of your life, you give yourself block, you go first next turn, and then you crush them to heal another 20%. So between 2 turns, you can heal up to over half of your HP and make sure that the combo's not interrupted, and then you give yourself block plus to heavily mitigate what comes after. You only need to pull out that kind of stuff for mountain bosses, but no joke, this dude can almost solo a mountain boss on his own between these 2 skills. Just loop those indefinitely. As long as he doesn't die to like damage over time, he can actually do it. I've done it. And so that's it for his moves, and we'll talk about his paths, and we'll go to Sergeant. Sergeant's actually like my favorite, which I wasn't expecting because this isn't a damage path. And oh yeah, we gotta make a move set too. So Sergeant is, you just get less damage. You have move immunity. If an enemy crits you, they might break through it, I think, maybe, especially if you have like a negative quirk, but this is essentially move immunity. Bolster, removing weaken and vuln. It doesn't normally do this on himself. It only does it on the target. So now it can cleanse himself as well. And then randomly he can give your allies a ton of damage over time resist. This is super good. And so if you need a thing to do with Sergeant, maybe something maybe like this. You know, you can move stuff around. The damage isn't super important, but what's nice about like Retribution is that, like I was saying before, you can keep knocking off tokens from the enemy, but you really want, you know, supportive stuff. So if you need to use Bellow, it's there. If you want to use Command, it's also there. This is actually a decent path to use Courageous Abandon because, you know, the damage penalty doesn't hurt it too much in the grand scheme of things because of the scaling. But yeah, what you're looking for, it's like these four are the core. So just something to, you know, keep them alive, protect the team, get rid of some tokens. Crush to clean up kills, honestly, is not bad. But this Man-at-Arms will go into rank 2 or 1. You can even put him in 3 if you don't run Crush, but he can go pretty much anywhere. And in terms of upgrades, Bolster is always the first upgrade. It doesn't matter the path, it's Bolster. Then afterwards, it'll be like Defender, Retribution. So next, we'll do Bulwark. Bulwark's got the best outfit, I'll say that much. It's got the blue and gold, looks very nice, you know. And for Bulwark, this is shield skills, get bonus damage, crush and repose, get less damage, and then your shield attacks have 10% stun resist piercing, and stand fast gets taunt. What are shield skills? They are ramparts, and they are hold the line. These are your shield attack skills. Even though it doesn't say it, I wish there was a tag that said it. It's these two. And so you want to, again, run the same two up here. With Defender, Bolster, you could still put on Retribution to ping off tokens. Like if you don't need hold the line, you can still run Retribution. And then you have Rampart, which goes up to, I think, like 4 to 8 damage with this. So it hits decently hard. And then you have Stand Fast to taunt yourself. So really this character can just sit there under like a mountain of block tokens for the entire fight, just rotating these skills. And Bulwark is good. Don't always need it. It's kind of better if you try and give him a combo generator to hit the stuns, but really it's a fun path and it is indeed strong. And then finally we have, this one you can put him anywhere. You can start him in rank 4 and open with hold the line if you wanted to. I don't recommend it, but you could do that. And then our final one to talk about is Vanguard. Vanguard is probably one of the most egregious paths in this game, because this is literally just bonus HP and bonus damage. So it used to be more than this too. And the max HP is great. Riposte damage is cool, but not super amazing. The crush damage is nice. And then he loses all of this damage over time resist. So it makes it a little bit harder to keep him alive sometimes, but the bonus HP kind of offsets it. It only really becomes an issue against like cultists, you know, stuff that likes to spam damage over time every single hit. So if you're not running into that, then it's okay. If you're running into that, you got to be a bit careful. But Vanguard, again, you can put him in 1 or 2. You want that crush bonus. And like it's really, you're seeing a pattern, right? It's just the core stuff. It's always Defender, Bolster, Retribution sometimes, Crush sometimes, and then like your 5th skill. So if you need Command, it's there. If you need Bellow, it's there. If you want a contingency, if you get moved, you got Hold the Line. You don't really need to run Rampart, and then you can also run Stand Fast. And if you go to a boss, like a mountain boss, or even before then, you can upgrade Strategic Withdrawal and run it like that. So very, very strong character. It's crazy how good this character is, and it's like he's one of those types where the better you get at the game, the more you get out of him. So if you want to min-max, you want to do challenges, or you want to really increase your understanding of the game, play this character. If you don't care, then don't run him. But he does make every team better by being on it. Now it's time to talk about Man-at-Arms Trinkets. We'll talk about his class ones and then some general ones that are also good for him. Starting with Price of Pride. This is literally his eyeball, and this is the best of his 3 trinkets for sure. When he gets hit, he has a chance of getting block plus. If he uses Bellow, he has a 10% chance of just stunning an enemy, That's actually pretty cool. And if he goes first in the turn order, he might blind himself. But the dude's got like 2 speed, he's not going first, so this doesn't really matter unless you have a speed token, I guess. But again, this doesn't come up that often, so it's not that big of a deal. Standard of the Ninth, this is probably his weakest of his class trinkets, just because the effects are kind of limited. So everyone else starts with block plus, that's pretty cool. Courageous Abandon has 50% crits, and then if he misses in rank 1, he weakens himself. This is presumably for Courageous Abandon, because you have to be in rank 1 for it. But even though that's like 50 crit, Courageous Abandon just sucks. It's just not good. So that's the only reason this trinket kind of, you know, is mediocre, is because the move it's supposed to be supporting is not the greatest. You can still build around it and make it work, but it's not the best. Undeserved Commendation. This one's interesting. You really want to upgrade Command with a mastery point so it has no cooldown to make use of this. So if you want a super support Man-at-Arms and you drop him in rank 2, this frees up rank 1 for Leper and Flagellant, maybe, definitely Hellion. You know, there are a couple characters that like to be up front. And so you can do that. And then Man-at-Arms gets bonus HP and has a chance to throw out a crit token. This is actually, so maybe the highest source of crit from like a buff that you can give to someone in the game. Because I know Vestal with Consecration of Light, that's 25. This is 33. Jester might have more with Battle Ballad Intermezzo, but I'm getting off track. I might be wrong on that one, but anyway. So this one's okay, but you definitely, if you have to pick one, it's Price of Pride. This is definitely the best one of the 3, but they're all okay. And so for other trinkets to use with him, he's really good with resist trinkets just because he's always getting hit. So whatever region you're in, if you have a resist trinket, it's okay to put it on. So if you're in the Fetter, where there's a lot of Blight or a Creature Den, Blight Res Exemplar, Blight Res for sure. Go to the Sprawl, boom, you got your Heat Shield, that's pretty nice. The Clotting Crore, I don't know, I want to call it Charm, but yeah, the Bleed Resist Charm, this thing is almost useful at all times just because Bleed is the most common damage over time type, but again, any of the resist trinkets, just throw them on if he needs them, or if you're in that area. Gilded Mine, again, Stress Resist, DBR, Death Blow Resist, that is very helpful to have. Hail Draft, so you get some HP, that can also work. And I mean, you could throw damage on him, but then I'd be spending the next 10 minutes talking about trinkets, and we don't necessarily want that. Anchoring Charm is good, so he stays up front, but movement's not really an issue for him, but it is nice to have the stun resist. Then we have Appalling Apron. This is super good on him, because he, especially if you're on Vanguard, where his resists are lower, this is kind of hard to find, but it is really nice if you do have it, because, you know, he can actually just cycle off all of that damage over time and turn it into regeneration, which when paired with his huge block numbers, he can almost self-sustain just off this. It's pretty interesting. Unblinking Entropy, this comes from Shambler, and he takes a lot of stress. You get positive tokens. From Beyond, one of the best characters to have it, just because if stress happens, then he has more DBR and debuff resistance. Pretty nice. But really, the sky's the limit with this dude. Mortal Ward, like anything defensively oriented can be really nice. Stuff like Sparkle Ball, which I haven't really talked about that much, because every time you riposte, you have a chance of throwing one of those tokens on the enemy. And let's see, going up towards, oh, Hints of Home. When you get hit, you can get some regeneration. Really nice to have. Redoubt, he's probably the best user of Reverberating Redoubt. After, it's him and Leper that are both really good with this. Just because they're so naturally slow, they have a chance of getting the extra action. Plus, he's getting hit all the time, so he's throwing back damage. Stone Mount is something very good for him, because you don't have to upgrade his stuff that gives him block, because this will do it for him. So it'll turn all of your block tokens to block plus, saves you some mastery, pretty cool. Then we have Clenching Claws. He gets hit a lot, hands back tokens. And then there's other stuff such as maybe Pocket Watch can be good. You know, he has a decent chance of resisting it and stuff. And there are a couple more I want to talk about. Specifically, like Sickening Silence. This dude is the best user of Sickening Silence because, you know, if you pick up a disease that's not that harmful, like hemic rot or whatever, hemophilic rot, I can't remember. It's the one from the fetter, and it used to be called sepsis, but it's not anymore. And, you know, rabies. There are a few not very dangerous diseases out there that he can pick up, and then all of a sudden he's thrown out a 6x3 blight. So he's got some really interesting choices out there. Sodden Sweater, this comes out of the the Shroud, and he's really good with this because he likes both of those stats. And I think I'm going to cut it off there. Like, half the trinkets in this game work on this character, so it's really just about, you know, finding what his job is and then just giving him something to help him do it. So that is it for the trinkets. Finally, let's talk about teammates that are good for Man-at-Arms. And honestly, this section is super short because anyone's good with this character. He can fit into any party that you want him to be in. His bolster stress heal is one of the best in the game, so he can fill the stress healing role. He's a great tank. He does some decent damage. He can always stay in the position that he wants to be in. So there's really no downside to this character, and he doesn't really need any synergies. If you wanted to look for one specific one, maybe Plague Doctor with Indiscriminate Science, because she can consume all of the tokens that he generates and then heal him with it. But you don't even have to do that. You know, this guy's just so good that any character in the game works with him, and he does make your team better just by existing on it. All right, y'all, that's gonna do it for the video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you're thinking down below in the comments. We're gonna move on to region guides next. Let me know what region you want to see first, I guess. I've already done the Sprawl, and I think I have footage for the Tangle and the Shroud, but I could also get footage for the Fetter, so it's not a huge deal. After we're done with the region guides, I will do, hopefully, some mountain boss guides. People aren't really asking me about those anymore, but I should still do them. And then that might be it for DD2 until an update outside of some random other videos that I have planned. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.